Off top in 1962, there was a coal mine fire in Centralia, Pennsylvania. It's still going on today. Play music.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
Welcome to the Domonique Foxworth Show. Joined as usual by Charlie Kravitz and my favorite basketball mind, Vinny Goodwill, Yahoo's own. Welcome, Vinny.
What's going on, y'all?
Oh, you brought the voice too. I mean, I gotta let people in a little bit behind the curtain. So Vinny is doing this show for us so kindly from a hotel. He's working these NBA playoffs, and when we first sat down, he had the lights down low. Looked like my man was doing an R&B video. Yeah. He set the tone, and then he brought the Boys the Man voice also, where it's like, baby, I'm sorry. You know we always gonna be together.
Can we not have Boys to Men be the R&B group of record? Can we make it a little?
No, but I wasn't saying they're the group of record. That's the talking man. Like when you think of talking on a record, right? It's the deep voice guy, right? Is there other people? I mean, personally, New Edition is I would say maybe be my choice of R&B group of record. You got a better selection?
I mean, yeah. Anybody other than Boys to Men, like we can go Jodeci, we can go a bunch of different places.
I'm sorry, not New Edition. Jodeci is definitely Jodeci. You can't play all them songs though. You can't really play them at all occasions because Jodeci was not down for the innuendo.
No, they was direct.
Yeah,
but Boys to Men was begging like in the worst way. I saw you with that other fella.
Yeah,
I knew about it. I didn't. What?
I wasn't a big
sucker.
Yeah, I wasn't a big Boys to Men guy. When they was wearing shorts with ties, I was get out of here with that nonsense. But I would like somebody to teach KC about a metaphor. Just once a metaphor. I want my man to understand that you ain't got to say exactly what you want to do.
Do you remember when LeBron wore the shorts with the suit and scalded the reporter with the pretty much broken hand?
And then he had the bag. He had the bag.
He got up and everyone was like, did he take Isaiah Thomas's pants for a suit even before the trade?
That was bad. That was bad. LeBron is...
That was the best. It was a top tier funny LeBron video.
It is, and you send it to me every now and then. I know you ask me if I saw it. You don't send me that gift
because he picks up the purse and goes, "Do better" to the media.
I think
pretty much broken.
I feel like it's called a handbag. It's not called a purse. You can't call it a purse. It's something.
It was whatever.
I think this is LeBron. His embarrassing moments. I think this is another testament of LeBron's greatness. Being as famous as he is for as long as he has been across a number of different coolness eras, he's managed not to embarrass himself too much. Like if you had pictures of what I was rocking when I was 18 and I had all the money and influence in the world, I look like a damn fool.
He's also leaning into the fact that he barely reads books with a new ad about him not actually reading the books.
Yeah. He's very brilliant. The self-awareness there. Even like the bad moments, like when they lost in 2011 and he told all you brokies to go back to your broke lives.
Bad moments?
Yes. That was supposed to be a bad moment. That was supposed to be a bad moment, but it turned out to be a cool moment for him. You know what I mean?
One of my favorite LeBron moments of all time. You brokies. It was outstanding.
I think he's gonna do an ad for an app that's like a polygraph machine.
Oh.
He's like, I guarantee it. He's gonna be like, I've been known to lie from time to time, but now I won't.
I'm just thinking about if I could have afforded to buy a big diamond chain like in the late 90s, early 2000s, that would be the thing that I would have done. Fortunately, I couldn't afford that at the time, and I got old enough. It's like, why would I do that? That would be dumb. It was no longer cool.
You were good enough at basketball. You would have gotten a Wes Unseld jersey and a Hummer. Without having to pay anything for it.
Yes, all the LeBron.
He would have been a cash money millionaire. Yeah. Like in that during that time, you would have shown up looking like Lil Wayne 2004. You know what I mean?
Baggy jeans everywhere.
Yes.
Oh gosh. Well, why don't we talk about the finals? I mean the playoffs. No longer talk about LeBron. Talk about some basketball games that are actually happening. Where do you want to start, Charlie?
We just did it. We just ESPN so hard. We spent 5 minutes on LeBron to start a show.
I started out with a coal mine fire, and somehow we end up in LeBron.
Real quick, MJ or LeBron.
I mean, I'm a LeBron guy. Don't ask Vinny. No. Vinny's gonna take it seriously, and we're gonna have to fight about it.
No. You're not gonna get me on ESPN's airwaves engaging in that farming. No, thank you.
I just wanted to be noted that Domonique said that MJ would be
Here we go.
The fifth, sixth best player in the NBA right now.
Gaslighting. It is too early in the show.
Dominique didn't say that.
I am Centralia, Pennsylvania. My fire has been gaslighting you for years.
Vinny, see, don't you do this in front of company. If we do it in front of, like, it's just me and you, I know that you're lying and we can laugh about it. Vinny just momentarily lost respect for me.
He called him
momentarily lost respect for me.
He just called him DeMar DeRozan of the 80s.
Okay, and that's so absurd that you know I ain't say that dumb. Oh gosh. Anyway.
Okay.
You done?
Yeah.
You get it?
I'm
you
done.
good?
I'm done. Everyone's in a good mood now.
Everyone's not in a good mood. Vinny's laughing. I'm not in a good mood.
Do you want me to do an R&B voice to talk about the Clippers?
Oh, that will put me in a great mood.
Get you in a good mood?
Oh, I love you. All right, do it.
The Clippers take home court.
Oh, no, that ain't getting no girls. You gotta put some bass in it, man.
I can't do bass in
Okay,
it.
never mind.
Okay, what was
you gotta start that. Hopefully you married, man. You gotta start that over.
Almost. But first, you gotta address them. Like, you don't just start it with Clippers. It always starts with a baby. That is how all R&B.
I think you're gonna say I have to yell Scrippers and then say Clippers.
You know how to push my buttons.
But
there we go, Juicy J
for the basketball.
It's the band. I do believe Bands is a classic. It's an underappreciated classic. People love it now because of Ovi, but prior to Ovi, Bands will make them dance. I know it's just a classic song, and it starts with Juicy J yelling Scripples. That's the first words said before we even get to the bass drop.
Did I ever tell you that when I was in college?
I'm sorry, Benny. We're going to talk about basketball.
You can play Bands at weddings, at classy weddings, and everybody loses their MFing minds.
It's the best.
When I was in college,
gosh,
only DJ Paul came to Nashville for a concert. It wasn't all of 3 6 Mafia, and the banner said 1-2 Mafia. I thought it was the funniest shit in the world.
That's real?
Yeah.
He put up 1-2.
I don't know if he put it up or Limelight in Nashville just had the marquee say 1-2 Mafia.
That's incredible. Oh, man.
That's a good one.
1-2 Mafia. All right. You don't have to do an R&B voice.
Okay.
Just go ahead and
talk
about basketball.
The Clippers have taken home court from the Nuggets. This series has been endlessly interesting through 2 games. But I want to ask specifically on game 2, what was your big takeaway when you were watching this?
That Kawhi Leonard is real. Mm-hmm. Like this man, when we think about how much time he's lost, and usually with, the ACL, the surgeries, all this, no player's supposed to look this good. Not at that age, not after all the atrophy to his body. It almost makes you think, man, what did we miss out on? Because he looks bouncy. He looks healthier. He looks healthier now than he did when he was dragging the Toronto Raptors to that championship in 2019. Like, he was dragging that right leg around, playing every other day, and just getting by. That man looked quick. That man looked athletic and bouncy and all the other things that Kawhi Leonard is. When you look at his playoff record, the man is one of the greatest playoff players of all time. And I know that sounds crazy, but he is. Like, he's up there in the Kevin Durant, the Steph Curry, the LeBron strata of greatest playoff players we've ever seen. We just haven't seen enough of it. And because of the injuries and the narratives and everything else, we feel like we've been cheated. But when he plays, baby, that man is a Terminator.
Are you concerned at all about, because I get your point, this does look a little different than recent seasons, the bounciness and athleticism, and him being able to do it in game 2. But I feel like part of me also just believes that eventually it's going to go away because it always does. And when you read the quotes that he has coming out of this game, like he just feels so like almost content and happy with just being able to be out there in that performance. So I don't want to put a negative spin on it, but if we're projecting this series forward, it's going to take more than a couple games for me to believe that we're going to get Kawhi for the whole
There's some
playoffs.
Really interesting stuff with this. He missed the first 34 games of the season. He had a 47-minute performance heading into the playoffs. Yeah. He's played 41 and 39 minutes in the 2 first games. And to Vinny's point about this, the thing that's so interesting is when Kawhi is right, I think it's him and Luka are probably the 2 best guys at getting you a bailout shot, just getting to their spots slowly, not working too hard and making an end of a shot clock shot in the entire postseason. That's not a disrespect to Steph or Jokic or LeBron or SGA. Those guys are all fantastic. That's just a very unique skill of actually finishing the play. And to me, it's like, I don't know if they're going to win this series. I really don't. It's been like, I thought they were the way better team in game 1. In game 2, I actually kind of thought the Nuggets gave it away with turnovers and misplays down the stretch. But there is a bit of excitement with Kawhi in this because it would have sounded insane to think that he could be the best player in a series against Nikola Jokic in round 1. That is absolutely on the table, depending on how this plays out.
I think you said a number of things that are at work here. One, even though this is a 4-5 series and it's supposed to be like the closest thing, there's not much margin between the second best team in the Western Conference and the 7th best team in the Western Conference. All these teams are so tightly wound and flawed in ways that you can exploit or be exploited that anything can happen, especially in this one where you can clearly see, man, if the Clippers keep this going, can they give Oklahoma City a challenge? Or same thing with the Nuggets because they have the best player on earth. The thing about Kawhi that gives him an advantage over Luka, when you talked about late game or late shot clock creation, Luka hunts the switch. Kawhi don't care who in front of him. He has this Jordan-like ability, and like, don't get me aggregated here.
Oh yeah.
But he has this Jordan-like ability to like do things simply. Like he's going to pick a spot on the floor. He's going to get there and take a shot. Now, you may get your hand in his face. You may find a way to sort of defend it well, but that's a relationship between him and the rim. And that was always the beauty of Jordan, was that it doesn't matter what the defense is tilted and everything else. I'm going to one spot. I'm taking one dribble to get to that spot, maybe 2, and I'm pulling up and hitting the shot. How many times did we see Kawhi Leonard do that last night in the mid post? He didn't have to take a bunch of threes. He took a fadeaway over Jamal Murray yesterday where Jamal was bodying him, and all Kawhi did was a little shimmy shake back to the middle, cleared space, bottoms. And I'm like, oh, we have a problem. Yeah. Like legit, we have a problem here, or rather the Denver Nuggets have a problem.
The easiness that it appears that he can get what seems like a good shot and a shot that he wants. It's that elbow jumper that we've seen time and time again. I saw there were a couple turnaround fadeaways. He had one over Aaron Gordon to a fadeaway on like a broken possession that I thought was really impressive. But the point that you're making about like the efficiency of movement that it requires for him to get to a spot, he don't have to work that hard. And that's the thing that like breaks down, it like leads to other people getting good shots. And you saw them like killing them with the Zubats and Harden pick and roll.
Yeah.
But
Jokic has to drop.
Yeah. But Kawhi was having a similar effect on the defense just by getting to that spot, and that it drew so much more attention. And that's where I think the love affair that we have with the Clippers right now breaks down a little bit, is when they have these 3 guys right now, it seems, but when they start moving the ball out to other guys, and I know Powell's the champion, but it just, when the ball get out to there, that's when when we start talking about OKC, that I'm like, I don't know about that.
That was the crazy part about game 1 too, is that you had Batum making hand in his face threes at the end of the game. It was like, well, what is this team going to be? But yeah, no, I mean, this series is uniquely set up for Harden to run wild too.
Am I wrong? I'm sorry.
Are we depending on Jim Harden? That is the question that we're talking about during the NBA playoffs.
Right.
Even though James Harden has been remarkably durable, right? Yeah. And he has been better than the narrative suggests. The narrative is there for a reason. Like, we don't remember that James Harden took 2 games off the Boston Celtics when he was in Philly, like 2 40-point games. We remember game 6 and game 7 when he didn't show up. If you're going to give me 2 40-point games where you're going to take a team on your back, maybe I negotiate with you and say, okay, maybe I can deal with you not showing up for 2 of those games. It just can't be game 7.
I mean, I don't believe that Ty Lue and that team buys into that narrative, whether it's true or not. But it did seem kind of suspicious towards the end of this game, where it felt like they still relied on, even though Kawhi was playing really well, it felt like up until they got to the 6-minute mark, they relied a lot on James Harden's decision making.
Perfect timing to do it. And then cut it at the 6-minute mark.
They was like, I feel like from then on, I only remember like one other time that it seemed like James Harden was in the action and he wasn't an off ball, like like catch and shoot option. It seemed like they decided at that point, which is weird because he played well in the close of the first game.
Yeah.
But at that point, and maybe it's just because Kawhi had it going, but it felt like their offense was so designed around like getting the ball to Zubac to make decisions, like away from the Kawhi stuff. Why they don't feel that same comfort? Or maybe it's about matchup. I'm sure it's more complicated than they just think that James Harden is going to choke in those spots.
I don't know if you felt this, Vinny, but if part of that I assume is because it was chaotic. Like there were a bunch of turnovers, deflected, second chance points, offensive rebound possessions where defense wasn't set, and it's almost like your first mismatch is the best one. But I don't know.
It's less complicated than that. But here's what it is. James Harden made everybody laugh when he said, "I am the system," but he is the system. Mm-hmm. When he runs that pick and roll, that tilts defenses, that gets guys in the pocket, that winds up swinging plays to get open shots. When it's Kawhi, hey man, just get him in the ball. And a lot of times in the last 6 minutes of a game, I know what you're running. You know what I'm running. I'm not going to trick you. You're not going to trick me. So it just comes down to execution. And if it comes down to execution, I'd much rather have the ball in Kawhi Leonard's hands because there's less variance. Like even though he had like 7 turnovers in game 1, that's an abnormally high number for Kawhi Leonard. Like he does not turn the ball over. He's very sure with it. So if you don't turn the ball over, that means you're not giving up fast breaks. You're not giving up, unbalanced floors. When you're playing a lot of pick and roll, anything can happen. Even with Harden being as good as he is, you don't want to take those chances. And here's the other part of it. There's something demoralizing when Kawhi Leonard hits jumpers over you. Compared to anybody else it's just certain players who do things and it's just louder. Like I'm covering Minnesota, the Lakers. When Julius Randle commits a turnover, it's loud. It's just some guys who do things and it just feels so demoralizing one way or the other. When Kawhi gets to his spot and hits a jumper in your eye, it feels inevitable. It feels like there's nothing you can do about that, and nobody else on that Clippers team has that type of power and gravity.
That's a funny distinction because I feel like that it's not something I thought about before, but it's also definitely something I feel is when Kawhi gets to that spot, it's like, y'all in trouble. Or when Steph hit that running out of bounds 3, I turned the damn TV off. I was like, this game is over.
You missed the next 3.
I know.
Sick.
I did miss the next 3. I saw it the next morning, but I was like, yeah, I ain't stayed up. The fuse is real short at them late night games. I'm looking for a reason. Like, give me quid.
Are you getting? Me and Bo talk about this all the time. Are you getting used to waking up to Charmed? Or whatever it is in the mornings.
No, because that era of my life is over now because I put on YouTube TV. So now like it's no longer the TV knows what I want in the morning, so it goes to my regular thing in the morning. So I no longer know what Buffy is up to or whatever they show it on that show anymore. I do want to give some love to Zoo though. Like I feel like upon like rewatching the game today and like looking at the key
awesome.
Possessions in his defense against Jokic, like Jokic had a triple-double, which is really incredible and impressive, but it's ho-hum for Jokic. But like them having the ability to have a player who is serviceable is like nice and like even wins possessions occasionally defensively against Jokic, like I think is a huge help. And it still came down to being a tight game, missed free throws and turnovers, but it just was cool to see, and I don't think he's getting appreciated for his defensive effort.
Domonique, there's something almost kind of like admirable in like an old school way that you don't want the help.
Yeah.
Right? If you're going to get 40, like there was players who tell me, man, if I got to eat this 40 tonight, I'm going to eat this 40 and you guys stay at home. Like I'll take the sacrifice. I'll try to defend. I'll be in his face. I'll make it hard, but let's not compromise our defense so much to this one guy. No matter who the guy is, Nikola Jokic is like, come on now, best player in the game. But if we do so much, we're going to leave Jamal Murray open, Christian Brown open, all these other guys. If I can make it tough for him, and then on the other end, I'm running him through screen and roll when he doesn't like playing that. Like if there is a flaw in that matrix, it is making that man defend, making that man run around. And, no matter what you say about playoff basketball, and I love the fact that it's being refereed the way that it is this year, the bumping and banging now, the physicality of it, it starts to wear on guys. And if you're bumping and banging on Nikola Jokic, at some point, he's going to start wearing down, even if you do. And you're like, man, if I could take 6 fouls, he's going to come away with something too. Like, I can foul out because we still got Kawhi and James running the show. Like, they'll miss me, but what will I have taken a chunk out of Nikola Jokic in the meantime? I'm willing to make that sacrifice.
Yeah. I mean, this guy's a good chance he's going to make all defense over Jaren Jackson this year. So it's incredible development story for a guy who was traded for Mike Muscala because LeBron wanted a shooting big. We should mention the Nugget side of this because I do wonder that it's razor thin. It's crazy. We had the good Westbrook game in game 1. They tried to go with Michael Porter Jr. in the trick or treat Westbrook game in game 1.
The Russell Westbrook experience. You remember the Michael Vick commercial? The Michael Vick experience?
Yeah. Like a roller coaster.
That's Russell Westbrook. That is just change the guy. That's Russell Westbrook. The Russell Westbrook experience, dog.
God. Yeah. And we had Michael Porter Jr., who was essentially Davis Bertans in game 1 and gave you 15 and 15 in game 2, but got hurt and turned the ball over at the end of the game in a really
Michael Porter Jr. experience.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely tough. But when you look at this, do you now just favor the Clippers in the series, knowing how hard it is for Denver to do anything? Like, it really has to run through Jokic and Murray to get anything going, it feels like.
I would like to think that me picking the Nuggets in 7 is not going to be deterred by a split in the first 2 games. Like, you expect a split in the first 2 games of competitive series. Like, you look across the board, someone's going to steal a game on the road, whether it's game 1 or 2 or game 5, like it's going to happen. I tend to believe, like you guys, at some point, the Clippers are going to show up. And I mean, the Clippers are going to show up and be the Los Angeles Clippers.
Yeah.
Like the former San Diego Clippers. You know what I mean? Like, at some point, and don't get me wrong, like, this goes against all my logic. Ty Lue is the best playoff coach, I think, like X's and O's wise, in the NBA by far. He can take his and beat yours and take yours and beat his. Like, that's how good he is. And then you have Kawhi Leonard, who I've just said is one of the best playoff players of this generation. That still does not, eliminate the fact that they could have a stinker, or they could just lose a home game because Jokic goes for 40 and 20. Like, I don't think that any team has a decisive advantage over the other. I will say that if it comes down to a game 7 on the road, I don't think the Clippers are feeling like they can't win in that building.
Yeah.
I mean, I think on paper, and when I think through this game or this series, I feel more confident in the Clippers, assuming that Kawhi can survive, his knee can survive the series. But when I actually watch the games, it never quite feels like that. So, like,
Jokic is so good.
Yeah,
he gets a good shot on every possession.
I mean, and he will never have 7 turnovers again for the rest of this series, I don't imagine. But maybe he will, because they play through him so often, and they're forcing him to make the decisions because they won't help off of him. And so maybe he'll have those turnovers. So, like, it's impossible to, like, handicap this series, but I guess it's depending on how you feel about who comes out of this, it may not matter.
It's so interesting that the Clippers had 20 turnovers in game 1, and I felt like they should have won the game. The Nuggets had 20 turnovers in game 2, and I felt like could have won the game down the stretch. It's like so much of the series, I feel like it's going to be just defined by who plays cleaner basketball, because the teams are so dead even.
It's so fun. I love it.
And in 20 years, we're going to say that Nikola Jokic could never play in today's NBA.
I can't wait for that. I can't wait to be yelling at people like, you don't know about Nikola Jokic. You don't understand.
The funny part is
he only got 1 championship, I know, but you don't get it.
They're going to interview him,
but you don't understand.
Yeah, you don't get it. He chose it.
He's going to get interviewed on some farm in Serbia, and he's going to agree with the interviewer, being like, "Yeah, you're right. I couldn't play in today's NBA, guaranteed." Let's pivot to the East. We're coming off Pistons Knicks. The Pistons have evened up the series. Jalen Brunson is just getting demolished online for being an unethical hooper, completely, compared to Cade Cunningham, who was really good after having a tough game 1. I got a question here, because the Knicks have looked really disappointing other than that 21-0 run in game 1. Does it just feel like watching this that the Pistons are the better team than the Knicks?
No.
Oh?
No, they don't feel like the better team.
Really?
They feel like the team that's playing better. That makes sense? They're the team that's playing better. The New York Knicks haven't unlocked Karl Anthony Towns, right? Like, that is the wild card in all of this. Like, he was on the milk carton in the second half of that game last night, and I tweeted about it, like, in the fourth quarter. Y'all going to ISO Brunson with 10 minutes left? Like, that's the offense that you're doing. It feels like the Knicks are undoing their own good work. Now, I'll tell you guys this. I had conversations with a couple Pistons assistant coaches like 2 months ago, and I told them this exact thing would happen. You're going to play the Knicks in the first round. You're going to get your doors blown off in game 1, and you're going to steal game 2. And what happens after that determines the future of your franchise. So I'm not surprised that they're here, but I'm saying for a young team that won 14 games last year, y'all, they're going to go home 14. And it's going to be a lot of hype, a lot of energy. That almost feels like a setup. That almost feels like, man, we're going to come here and let down because we don't know how to deal with this. They're a young team. They played very mature and poised yesterday, but I wonder how much can that carry over when you feel like you have everything set in front of you. I'll tell you this, if they win game 3, they win the series. And if they win the series, Tom Thibodeau is looking for another job. Like, this is so much more about the New York Knicks in a way that the stakes are there. And if Jalen Brunson is still out here, wrapping his car around a tree and saying somebody else did it, then we going to have problems. Because I can't watch. Do y'all like watching them play?
No, sir.
That's a hard watch.
I'm not as online as Charlie, and it appears that I was echoing some of the sentiments in my text to Charlie that he was reading on Twitter, because I thought that I was the only one who was watching Jalen Brunson. Like, come on, man. Let's not right now. Not in the clutch moments. Like, what are you doing? Try to neck snap and slap people's hands into your face, do all types of tomfoolery. Like, I understand gamesmanship, but that's a detour that I didn't need to go on. But the fact of the matter is, you said when they unlock Karl Anthony Towns, what makes you think that they will? Like, when you said Tibbs gonna be looking for a new job, Charlie already started mouthing they need to be either way. Nothing about what Tibbs has done up until this point suggests to me that they are gonna figure this out. That wasn't a mistake. Like, it's not a surprise to me that, or at least it feels like it was a decision not to involve Karl Anthony Towns at the end of this.
See, this is where we disagree. Yeah, this is like we've watched a decade of Karl Anthony Towns since the Final Four against Wisconsin.
Ask Vinny.
But having games where, like, you have great playoff games where he plays up to the talent, and he has games where he disappears and feels super passive. And to me, that feels like a feature, not like a bug at this point. That's sort of who he is.
Well, not a feature, but it's
a feature of the Karl Anthony Towns experience.
Feature implies positive.
I guess it is a bug, but it's a negative feature. It's a poorly designed feature in the Karl Anthony Towns.
It's in the factory presets. Yeah. That's what you're saying.
Frame the question the right way. It's like, so Charlie and I disagreed a little bit in how it seemed like a decision not to have Karl Anthony Towns in the action. And Charlie was saying that no, he thinks that it's because Karl Anthony Towns chooses to not involve himself.
More passive, yeah.
To not involve himself in that. And my thing is like, Tibbs, call a damn timeout. Tell that big to go up there and set a screen and pop. He loved to pop. Pick and pop, baby. Just pick and pop and let Brunson fly downhill and snap his neck back and do something else, whatever he wanted to do, and pass it to Towns to shoot.
The problem with that is J.B. Bickerstaff has done something really innovative, so to speak. He put Tobias Harris on Karl Towns. And we know Karl is not the type that's going to back you down like he's Anthony Mason or Charles Barkley in 1995. So you're putting a quicker player on him. That enables you to switch off a little bit better. And unfortunately for the Knicks, we all know Karl Towns ain't running back on defense fast. So you got to keep the floor balanced, which means you can't keep him all the way as the last man back. Otherwise, somebody's going to run past him. I do think they are too reliant on Jalen Brunson, and Tibbs trusts Brunson more than he trusts anybody else. And when stuff gets tight, when your coach gets tight, it shows on the players and what they run. It shows. And not that Tibbs is necessarily cheeky, but the Knicks played tight. Even throughout that comeback, I never felt like the New York Knicks were going to win that game. Yeah. I felt like they were going to make a run and then that they would run out of gas. And that's essentially what happened. Like, they haven't played well in the first 2 games at home. Now, granted, maybe that's the pressure of Madison Square Garden, the expectations, everything else, and you play a lot of loose and free on the road. Maybe that's the case. But you got a couple of days to figure out how to use Karl Anthony Towns. Look, the boogeyman didn't even play. Isaiah Stewart was out. I thought for sure that was going to be a Karl Anthony Towns game. It was not. And if Big Stu comes back for game 3,
he was so different. Karl was so different in game 1.
He was good in game 1.
Yeah, he was aggressive.
He's not bad in the playoffs.
Yeah.
He was good against Nikola Jokic.
He's up and down. It depends game to game.
I want to ask you what the adjustments could be, but I know that Charlie had something that he wanted to get to also.
I was going to say, like, to your point about the feel of it, I didn't think the Knicks were going to win that game, but I did think there was a chance the Pistons were going to lose that game down the stretch just from the scar tissue of game one. And with Towns,
you got Schroeder. You ain't got nothing to worry about as long as you got Schroeder.
Well, all-time hair transplant success story. Unbelievable
that is
forehead transplant.
Quality work. Top-notch work. Whoever did that.
I need to ask him how because we at the stage where the hairline's doing a slow fade.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's a very slow fade away.
And the thing is, it's not so bad that people would notice.
Yeah.
I could slide some dots in here real quick. Nobody wouldn't catch up on it every couple of years. Next thing you know, I'll be touching my eyebrows. You know what I mean? You'd be shocked.
you be right back to 25. No, I think this, Charlie, the Pistons team with Cade Cunningham, he don't scare.
Yeah.
And if your best player doesn't scare and he has the ball in his hands a lot, like he was able to control tempo and pace in a way that settled everything down. Like you never felt like they were going to absolutely lose the game. I felt like the Knicks just weren't going to have enough and the Pistons were going to, do enough to sort of prevent the nose from going all the way down. Yeah. I felt like they had matured from game one and felt like they let one get away. I didn't think that they were going to be demoralized enough mentally. Like if they had gotten blown off in the beginning, I'm with you. But when they took a double-digit lead in the second quarter, I'm like, oh no, these dudes are fine.
Yeah.
I know we got to get to some draft stuff eventually, but this is too much fun. I don't want to rush through this stuff. I was wondering, you made the point that they have to figure out what to do with Karl Anthony Towns.
I thought they were going to bench him for Mitchell Robinson when they went on that 12-2 run.
Well, they don't.
I thought I thought Tibbs literally was like,
he's the big
I don't want to lose Towns for the rest of the series. So he's going back in.
Him and Bridges are the big acquisitions.
Yeah.
And both of them seem to be somewhat of a problem in this series. What will they do with Karl Anthony Towns that will unlock him or unlock their team in some way? Because that's when I am more confident in Detroit in this series than I am in the Knicks figuring out something.
I'm more confident in Detroit figuring game 3 out. Mm-hmm. And I do think game 3 tends to be one of those games where the winner of it, you take a 2-1 lead, you really put a lot of pressure on the favorite team. I do also tend to believe that this is going to be a 2-2 series at the end of 4 games anyway, and we're going to start right back over. With Karl Towns, man, you just have to live with the ups and downs. Like, I covered that whole Timberwolves Nuggets series last year. There were games where I was like, man, this dude is the best player on the floor. And then the next game, he would do the Sheila E. Bongos on Nikola Jokic for no apparent reason in the first quarter to get 3 fouls. Like, not 2, 3. Like, Karl, why would you do that? And Domonique, you got kids.
Yeah,
you ask your kids why, they be like, oh, no, I just can't help myself. That's Karl.
When he fouled Malik Beasley on the baseline to pick up his 3rd foul in that game, I was like, why are we doing this again? Yeah. How are we back to this?
The kids
Charlie, you must be a Knicks fan. I'm hearing angst.
No.
I'm basketball frustration.
I trust me. It's one of the few places that's sadder than the Knicks or Pistons.
Charlie's a Wizards fan.
Yeah.
To be clear.
Oh no, you poor thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Getting Coop though. We're gonna be hanging with Mr. Cooper real soon.
Is that what we doing? Is that what we going?
That's the best. It's the best we can do.
I'll tell you one thing. People are gonna be afraid of Bilal, Bub Carrington, Cooper Flagg, Alex Sarr, building something.
Oh God! So to be clear, the kids they don't ever give a straight answer like you said. Like, I don't know. Like, they look at you like you stupid is the move. And I imagine that cat would do the same thing. And I'm like, you stepped over these dirty drawers 3 times. You had to go back and forth 3 times. Why didn't you pick it up? Huh? That is Karl Anthony Towns on the sideline with the foul. It's just like, why are you trying to cut off the baseline or cut off the sideline at this point in the game? What are you doing? Huh?
He would be so if he was. Can you imagine being a teammate of Karl Anthony Towns? And you see the talent, you see the gifts, you see everything, and then the boneheaded plays. Yeah. You're like, we can't win.
I mean, that was the coolest thing that Ant did when he was just Towns' big brother immediately. He was like, I got this. Like, I'll handle the questions. You can use whatever voice you want. Like, we're good here.
Yeah.
One day there will be a case study done on the duality of Anthony Edwards. That man is like seemingly one of the more mature basketball players on the floor. and then there's the other stuff.
You know the cliche
And
the cliche that all athletes use is like, when I step on the field, I hit the switch and I'm a different person. It's not true for everybody, but maybe for some people. Some people it's like, yeah, inside these lines, these rules align perfectly with my personality. Outside, what?
Well, I just also
responsibility.
I also just think it's so funny that like there are all these NBA players who are like, I have the Mamba mentality. I came from and then the one guy who would never say that, who would never be like, I'm just totally imitating Kobe, is
aimed his gun right at Luka.
Yes.
just nuts.
He is actually the person who is just as fearless as Kobe or anyone who's ever played.
He's a bad kid. Like no, and I mean that affectionately.
No,
like,
I know the kid you talking about. I know him. We all know him.
He's the bad kid at school, but then he smiles at you like, you ain't so bad. Come on, man, stop doing this dumb stuff, man. Just go on. And then there's other bad kids who will remain nameless. You're like, man, you ain't tough. Come on, man. Why you doing this?
You remain nameless, wink, wink. We know. The last thing I'll say about the Knicks on this series is the one thing where you did hear the pang in my voice of, this team was fun last year.
Yeah.
This crowd was fun last year. And they extended Thibodeau. They gave 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, who drastically changed his shot in the offseason. They didn't keep DiVincenzo. They lost Hardenstein. It just feels like a less fun and homegrown group in a way that it is one of the things that sucks about the NBA ecosystem, where it's like, I kind of just wanted to watch that like tough, scrappy Knicks team from last year. Compared to
this is
team.
the downside of the NBA. You have 1 year to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Look, legit, you have 1 year to have all the hard scrabble, to have the tough players, to have the come out of nowhere sort of feeling that everybody can rally around. Even this Detroit team, this is the fun year. Next year is going to be expectations. Next year is going to be, man, 44 wins ain't going to cut it. In the NBA, because in the NBA, the league moves faster than ever, quicker than ever. Like, think about what the Phoenix Suns were 3 years ago compared to where they are now, because they felt like they had to press every single fast forward button. And those are the same buttons the New York Knicks just pressed to get Karl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges. And what does that lead to? Even if they get out of this series, they're going to get swept by Boston. So what does that tell you about all the things that they've done? They're no closer to a championship this season than they were last year. And at least last year, you could say they were a lot more likable.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. All right. Speaking of likable, Vinny Goodwill, hope to have you back a number of times during the rest of the playoffs because you are fantastic. Thank you so much. Enjoy your hotels for the next few months. Be safe.
Ain't going to be no Boys to Men played, and I'll tell you that much.
That's for damn sure. All right, brother. We see you next time.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's continue the Yahoo extravaganza with Nate Tice, our wonderful draft expert. Welcome, Nate.
How you guys doing? Yeah, comfortable in purple. It feels good. I feel like I'm at home here.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I didn't even realize that the link up there when we got your face in the purple.
It's good.
Your Vikings history.
Oh, burned a lot of Vikings gear in about 2000. There's a lot of burnt Vikings gear in a bonfire in the suburbs of Minneapolis from 2006 somewhere with me and my family.
Yeah, you are. I mean, you're from an NFL family, and so I imagine that through the course of your life, there have been like changing fandoms. Is there an organization that you cut me off? Go ahead.
Oh no! I want to hear what the actual question is.
Is there an organization above all else that the Tice family is like? You know what? Those guys.
No,
it's the Vikings.
Nothing was too brutal. The Vikings was like that for a little bit. And then I would say once, it sounds bad, but once Brad Childress got fired, the one that followed my dad, the coach that followed my dad, then we were good.
Right.
It was kind of like, it's the next girlfriend.
Right.
And then, or the girlfriend dating the next boyfriend. And you're just like, well, it's the one after. And then the one after, we're okay. So we're okay now. But all the other ones were pretty amicable. The Raiders one was more of the Raiders being the Raiders. Didn't take
everybody has a Raider story.
You're going to really get mad at Mark Davis just with his bowl cut, eating PF Chang's.
did something outlandish. And the funny thing, I worked for Jack Del Rio. Del Rio had the same agent as John Gruden, which still is one of the most confusing things ever. Getting one of your clients fired so the other one can get hired at the same spot.
10 years, $100 million.
Yep. Still paid it, I think.
Yeah.
Agents, don't
they got
trust
that
them.
VC money.
All right, so we're here to talk about the draft, and I'm sure you're very excited about getting to the draft because a lot of your life is geared around preparing for this. So we got a lot of good questions for you, but before we get in there, is there a draft evaluation that you point to when you want to gain some credibility and you're like, nobody knew about this guy? I called it. And here he is.
Well, Puka Nacua is actually a recent one. That would, but I wouldn't say I don't want to go like, oh, he should have gone in the first round, but I thought he should have been a day 2 guy. So Puka Nacua is actually one of recent times. David Johnson, when I was in the league, running back, he was at Northern Iowa. And I think a lot of people looked at him as like a day 3 guy because he was so funky, a former receiver and stuff. And then when I was with the Falcons, I was pretty adamant about that one. So those are a couple. And then I'm pretty bullish on Drake May. I feel like that one's going to be my piece de resistance as time goes on because that was the dude. I think he was a special talent and it kind of his rookie year. So that one's I'm maybe getting out too far ahead of myself, but that one I'm feeling pretty good about as far as what he became.
Where did you have him? Where did you have him relative to the other quarterbacks? Or I mean, I guess that may not be fair. You just had them all as franchise guys.
Well, I had him and Caleb. I had May at the top. As one, Caleb 2, and then I had Jaden in the teens. Because I just had, Jaden's size and everything, some of the sacks he took, those were some of the blemishes that I had on him, but I still liked him a lot. But
I'm sorry, Nate. Show's over. We're no longer continue to have any conversation with anyone who at any point had any disrespect for Jaden Daniels. It's
me
not
and Commanders
okay.
fans are good now, so they were trying to come after me in September, and I was like, hey, I like what's going on. So
you're only the second person on this set who had doubts about Jaden Daniels. I'm the only one who knew. He showed up.
I wanted Drake May also.
Okay.
I'm delighted.
Yeah,
I was like, Drake May seems like everything you want in a quarterback. And then after week 2, when Jaden Daniels was getting lampooned because of how he was getting hit, I was like, let me just check out some Arch Manning highlights. I was like, the timeline could fit. And then about 16 weeks later, I looked like the dumbest person in the world. So I'm delighted to look stupid.
What a distance we've come in a situation where you two think that Drake or thought that Drake May was better than Jaden Daniels. I'm not even gonna make a joke about it. We've come a long way.
You gotta learn. You gotta learn a little bit, and just figure it all out. I learned the 2001 Bengals season taught me a lot about digging in against a feverish fan base. That one just kept exploding in my face because it was just like the stats they're getting lucky, guys, and they just won playoff game after playoff game. They make a march to the Super Bowl, and every week I picked against them. And I've learned since then. I've definitely learned.
All right, so I think we should start with the quarterbacks because you're a quarterback, and that's all anyone really cares about. So let's start there. Where's a good fit for Shedeur? What?
That's not true. I care about DBs as well.
No, you don't.
They're the last
when they play wide receiver.
Yeah, that's the only time we're going to talk about DB.
The last
is one
position I watch every year is corners.
It's probably going to be a wide receiver. All right, so where do you think is a good fit for Shedeur?
There's not a lot, if I'm being honest. I really do think the Steelers rumor is one spot that makes sense to me because if they maybe have a vet on the roster as well. Because I do think that offense has a pretty talented young offensive line, which I do think will help Shedeur away from his worst habits, which is taking sacks, which is a very real thing. I think Phil Lodeholt, the Colorado offensive line coach, should be suing people for defamation and slander that's been happening this last year. Everyone's just acting like it's the worst offensive line they've ever seen. And it was like, it was like a below average FBS offensive line. And I think Sanders kind of did not mitigate a lot of the pressure that he did receive. I always thought that he takes a second. A lot of how he operates is elongated. Takes a second to see a guy open. Takes a second to hitch up into a throw. So I think for him to have success, he needs to go a place with an offensive line, a ready-made one. Now, that's maybe the Steelers, and I still think that's a little rich for him because I view him more as a day 2 guy. But I do think that if all of these potential landing spots, that one makes sense. You know, if the Rams do want to go with a guy that they want to develop behind Stafford, but I don't think Sanders maybe is a great fit. And then maybe the Browns as well, because again, right now their offensive line is decent, but I do think that's a ticking time bomb. But I'm not saying at 2, obviously they might go his teammate, but at 33 or something like that, I'd be comfortable with that, with the Browns taking him there, because just they have a decent offensive line to keep him out of his worst habits.
I was tthinking exactly that. Either the Steelers or 33. 33 with Travis Hunter would be the most fun storyline of it. Domonique, insane stat about Shedeur. 34% of his passes were at or behind the line of scrimmage, and he was still the most sacked quarterback in college football. So the ball holding is tough.
It is.
Nate, do you think he's closer to Cam Ward or Jackson Dart?
Jackson Dart. I think Ward's clears all those guys by 2 tiers. I don't think Ward is close. I have Ward and Daniels kind of tiered similar, like a little bit below Daniels and above JJ McCarthy for comparing them last year. So like a good prospect though, but not maybe a true clear blue chip guy. But I think Shedeur is more of that day 2 dart throw type, which I've grouped Shedeur, Dart, Shuck, Milroe, and I like Riley Leonard from Notre Dame as kind of like late 2nd, 3rd rounders, not clear cut guys I would even take a chance on in the 20s, if I'm being honest. But then it becomes a flavor game, like which guy you want to work with and develop and go from there. But I really consider him, I consider him in that same cluster as opposed to with Ward, who I think is clear cut number 1 in this class.
All right, Jeanty, where do you think Ashton Jeanty belongs?
Oh, belongs? Oh, man.
Yeah, I reframed the question because I think there are a lot of things that go into discussing drafting running backs, and specifically this one.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of heat right now with the Jags, and it's one where I get it because they maybe want to do some upgrade there, but I think that's a little bit of a smokescreen. If I'm being honest, I almost prefer them if they want to go skill guy. If they go with Tet McMillan, the receiver from Arizona, I really like him. The guy that I would love Jeanty with the Broncos. Broncos are picking pick 20, but they are the one team that's had actually like kind of confirmed rumors, I would say. So, you know, it's from Albert Breer and a couple other places are saying, hey, Sean Payton's, if certain guys fall, he might be the guy moving up into the top 10. Number 8, the Panthers, they've already kind of indicated, hey, we might move back. Like, so to me, if Jeanty falls past maybe the Raiders at 6, and I don't think the Jets will be taking them, then right there at 8, I could see maybe a team moving up right there. Broncos would be ideal. I think their offensive line is tremendous. I think Jeanty would just look like Zeke in his rookie year behind that Cowboys offensive line. And then, but really the other team, if a team didn't move up, I do like them with the Bears. The Bears are kind of sitting in a cool spot. They don't have to move, and they can have a few different positions fall to them, and they can just go what they want. They have defensive linemen there, edge or D tackle. They have a couple offensive line guys that should be there. They have a tight ends that should be there, or they can go Jeanty. So like the Bears actually is one I've kind of come around on, even if it's a little bit rich considering what the running backs are in day 2.
The Bears spot, I do think, is one of those spots that they're really in a good spot with a quality roster and a lot of players to choose from. I feel like the Patriots are the opposite, where they are in a really bad spot at number 4, and that this is a kind of a one tier of players in this draft, and then there's another tier. And even it would be fine if the player that they needed had the arm length that they wanted. It's like Will Campbell would be perfect if it weren't for the fact that his reach is a bit of a concern. And I know that's been dispelled a little bit with the recent measurements, but I think if you go back and watch it, he's not as good as he's the best tackle this year, but he does not seem like, from a tape perspective, as like a cornerstone Joe Alt type of tackle.
Much like Cam Ward at quarterback. That's kind of like how he is. Right. That's the thing, is all the top guys, even like Abdul Carter, they all have like blemishes that I'm like, they're technically the top guys, but to me, they're not these like top 5 every draft type of guys. And so, Campbell's part of that discussion. I really like Campbell. Like, he's going to make it in the league. It just might be at left guard, you know, and, but the appeal to me of Campbell is the term I've kind of come to, is that he's a best 5 enabler. So no matter what, he's going to let you get your best 5 offensive linemen out there. That to me is the appeal. Like I think he could be a strong starter or above average or better starter at all 5 spots, and be a good or better starter at maybe the interior 3 spots. Even I talked with my dad, who, you know, coached offensive line. I didn't think Campbell would be his flavor. If my dad's offensive lines were always gigantic, big, long arms and everything. He goes, I think he could stick at right tackle. Like, I do think he has that, because he has athleticism, he has good technique, but you do see sometimes like inside moves give him issues. And when you see that, it's like, all right, you're a good athlete, but you're still kind of letting some leakiness go because you can't recover with like your length and keep the guys off. So it's like, yeah, he has blemishes. I do think he's a good player, high floor, yada, yada, yada. The Patriots is kind of like, I get it, because it's, we need 5 linemen and he lets us get our best 5 linemen out there. And maybe you say we get our left tackle of the future in a future draft. But I don't know. That's always kind of like, if you need something else to get the most out of the player you're drafting, that kind of leaves me a little uneasy, especially where the Patriots are sitting right now. But I get it.
But I'm not sure what else they would do. It's
Me either.
that's the hard
They're
part
trapped.
about it. Is
they
like,
should have won that last game. Tanking should have worked in the NFL.
Like Membo, who's a fun player, is still a kind of maybe a project-y tackle. McMillan, who I would love. It's like, are you really going to go receiver already in the top 10? Like, you need so much. Like, they no matter what, they don't have like a great answer. I kind of feel for them a little bit. I don't know. They have enough Super Bowl rings in that building.
You've tried to crowbar Tet McMillan into this broadcast on 2 different occasions. So go ahead. Tell me about Tet McMillan, because this is where we disagree.
This is going to be a tension point. He does not like gliders. He doesn't like gliders.
I think he's a dude, man. I just think his ball skills, because he's a big player that plays big. And I think with a lot of guys that are 6'4", and we say, oh, he's an X receiver, look at it. And then you watch them and they're falling away. You ask like, oh, you played basketball. How many rebounds did you get in high school? Like, like McMillan, though, it's like, oh, yeah, he played basketball. He played volleyball. He's high pointing. And also not only high pointing, he can adjust as well. I think the long speed stuff does come up. Like, I do think that is the big blemish of his game, but I still think he can attack vertically because he's great on back shoulders. I think he's a good route runner already as well at 6'4", and he has some fluid. And like, what's interesting with him, and I don't think there's a good comparison for him. Like T. Higgins might be a little bit, but he's a little more fluid than Higgins. Like, and that's why that comparison doesn't work perfectly. I said the utmost, the highest, best comparison ever is Fitzgerald, because Fitzgerald was a bully ball guy that ran good routes, wasn't a long speed guy, moved to the slot in the second half of his career, which McMillan already shows he can do. So it's just one of these guys. I didn't think I'd be as high on him going into the process. I liked him throughout the process. And then when I was like, all right, I'm writing an article, let's watch 8 games. I was like, I love this.
That's
dude.
why you're a better draft analyst. Yeah, that's the word. Yeah. That's why you're a better draft analyst than me, is because you came in with a preconceived notion and had your opinion change. But I watched Tet McMillan and I was already decided I don't like these big, like no quick twitch receivers that have to win off of size and body position and can't create separation. And that was my concern. And then I watched it and was like, he actually runs better routes than I anticipated. I told Charlie that. But I'm stuck. I'm stuck with my preconceived notion. I can't move off of it. I just can't. I can't do it because I won't be wrong.
But that's the thing too, is I even had like an early take after I first started my study and on our pod, and I was like, I'm going to have him at number 2 overall. And then I was like, okay, all right, chill. And then I put him at 3, and I know why I want to maybe bump it down a couple spots just because of position stuff. But then it's like, I'm pot committed. he's 3. We're sticking there already. But he's an X that can move around and is not stiff. And I'm just like and he can create some yak. Like, and he's not going to take every run to the house, and explosive plays are the name of the game. They are. Like, how you generate an explosive play as a receiver is so valuable. Was 20 years ago, it is now. And I do think he's like a doubles hitter. Like, he can catch one at 8, a curl route at 12, a stop route on the outside, make that first guy miss, and then get 5-7 more yards. He's not taking it to the house, but he's taking 8-yard gains and making them 18. And I think he can do that consistently. So that's why I just really came around on him. It was just how fluid he was.
You see Travis Hunter as a receiver with the Browns?
I would prefer if they saw him as a corner. They see him as a receiver. So,
so you would prefer
first.
Okay, you see him as a corner first, not just because of the Brown situation, but no matter where he ends up, you think that's where. Why?
I mean, shoot, I feel like you could speak to this better. I think playing corner full time and being a moonlighting as a receiver is an easier ask mentally and physically. I just think the flow of the game at corner is like, you got to be out there. And I think there's been some lazy analysis like, oh, just play man coverage, play zone, and he's just got the flat. And it's like, well, teams run match coverages like half the time these days. And how much do you know? Like, you have to know what the common route concepts you're facing that week. And you have to know the feel and what they're trying to set up. I think it's just so much easier, the flow of the game. You have to play corner while at receiver. And I think some people think that, oh, he's a receiver, he's just a gadget guy, just reverses and jet sweeps. It's like, no, I would have the day 1, day 2 install piped into his brain. And then it's like, okay, we can call these 10, 12 concepts, and he doesn't really have to know the intricacies until later in his career. Also, the weight thing is something that's kind of getting waved away.
188.
And yeah, he played 100 plus snaps, so he could probably gain a little bit of bulk, but there's not a long history of top 10 or first or second round receivers that were sub 190 that had long-term success. I keep reiterating the stat, so why not do it again? Sub 190-pound receivers to make a Pro Bowl since 1990. Only 5. Zay Flowers, Deshaun Jackson, Chad Johnson, who I actually do think is a good comparison for honor at receiver, right. Marvin Harrison Sr., and Isaac Bruce. 2 All-Pros, Chad Johnson, Marvin Harrison Sr. Sub 190-pound corners to make a Pro Bowl drafted in the first 2 rounds since 1990. 23 of them. All-Pros, 8 of them. I just think even though receivers are able to succeed a little bit smaller, I do think that is something about long-term success at the position. It just takes bigger guys to have long-term success.
I had a conversation with Charlie this morning about the underappreciation for the cerebral part of the game as a defensive back. I think it's probably a lot easier to be like, all right, you got this route. Go run this route on this play.
Right.
It's a lot easier than having to understand that, like, all right, this is the coverage, but if they do this, you do that. If they do this, then you got to do that and anticipate. And that type of stuff takes preparation and study. But I think I want to ask a slightly different question. If you could choose him being all pro at one or the other position, put the weight stuff aside and the probability aside, which would you rather have, an all pro receiver or an all pro corner?
I still think corner because it's just harder to find. It's there. Count on your hand right now how many lockdown corners there are. 3, 4.
Right.
And you have to usually use a top 10 pick to get those dudes. The Surtain II right now, Stingley right now, Sauce Gardner. Those are the guys at the top, and those are all top 10 picks. It's that I think you could just find these receiver types on day 2 and maybe have the upside. Yes, it's easier said than done, but you can, the quantity is there now.
Get this Tice guy on more often. I like that you disagree with me on almost everything, but you have some support for it. It's not just angry disagree. It makes me second guess, because I would have thought that, like, the value of a receiver is so high, and the impact on the game that a receiver can have is so high, and the variance in performance of even your top corners. You brought up Sauce Gardner, and even your top corners have rough games.
The tail on corners
it's
so
easier.
Small. Yeah.
My value, and something I marinate on a lot and think about a lot, is everyone wants to talk about premium position. How I think of it is just positional value. It's just the chain reaction of a football play. Obviously, the quarterback's the most important guy. We all know that. That's with the bullet. He has the ball in his hands every single play. Okay, who's the first guy to stop him? A pass rusher. Okay, that to me is the second most important position. Who's the guy that stops the pass rusher? The offensive line. So that's the third most important position. Now I've tried to figure out if it's receiver or corner next. But no matter what, to me, receiver's down the chain, because it takes more for a receiver to affect the play, because it's a receiver. You're receiving something. You are not doing it. So many good things have to happen for a receiver to impact the game. They can get taken out of plays, I think, more easily than more premium positions can, or other positions can. So, and also just, again, I think it's not full level running backs don't matter, but the receiver talent pool is deeper than ever. Not just saying the stars, but just the number 2s and number 3s are so much better, and you can find them easier. So that's kind of just how I think about it a lot. Like, I think that's that
the availability of them and the, like, relative ease of finding them, I think, is probably the best argument for it. Like, I appreciate your chain explanation, but I feel like from a defensive perspective, I think about game planning.
Right.
And it's like, who's going to require my attention? And if you got Justin Jefferson out there and Jamar Chase, and I guess it's probably
the ultimate one.
It's probably unfair to think about only these high top end guys, but, like, I feel like I'd rather have one of those guys, or I'd be more concerned about one of those guys than having a corner that I had to avoid.
I actually don't think that's unfair because some of the draft comps for Travis Hunter, like the really high end comps, people are comparing him to whether it's Beckham or Justin Jefferson. It's like a play style of him.
But I think the ability to replace them. So like if I were to agree with Nate, then the point would be I could get a B-level receiver, but finding an A-level corner is almost impossible.
Yeah.
And we found one, so let's live life that way.
And I think, too, like a good pass rusher, like, if a guy is a good pass rusher on the edge, you can slide the protection to him, you can chip help. Okay, it requires eyeballs. And I think a receiver can get wiped out of the production or the game plan easier than other positions. All right, run cover 2.
Right.
Run bracket. Or one double, whatever, double number, et cetera, and which teams do nowadays. And then now we have to move him around. This is what the Vikings have been going through the last couple of years because everyone just ran cover 2 against them. Now you have to get secondary receivers to help it out or a run game and a run game. That's just kind of how I think about it as well.
No, we're definitely going to talk more often. I need to call you more often so I can argue with you because I feel like it makes me smarter. I know Charlie is concerned about our listeners and viewers and want us to move on to another topic.
What?
I'm interested.
I love this. Are you kidding?
Okay, good.
Don't gaslight me.
Sure.
I was going to ask about the pass rusher thing. Does that mean would you take Carter at 2 over?
No. Don't get off of that. Hold on. We'll put that for a second.
It was a follow-up.
No. I got it. That's a great follow-up. I thought of that. I think we should get to that in a second.
I thought about that too.
I guess the point that I would make to you is when you start doing those things, you compromise your defense. And I think this might just speak to us being from different sides of the ball and having a different perspective. And it's like, if I have to bracket Justin Jefferson or if I have to play cover 2, if I can't survive without playing cover 2, we don't got D linemen like we used to. How many teams can go out there and play cover 2 and stop the run consistently? Or if and get a pass rush, you're not allowed to blitz anymore for the rest of this game because this receiver's here. If we bracket, that compromises so many other things on our defense. And I guess that's the thing. And it might be something that we cannot come to a conclusion on because there are valid arguments on both sides. But that's the thing about an all-time level receiver, which he's projected as being that freaks me the hell out, and I think I'd rather have one of those than a corner, which is sacrilege since I'm a corner.
And I grew up with Randy Moss, so
we
go opposite of what we grew up on. I know. I think about receiver value a lot, and what you're saying too is like I totally get it. Like it's when you run cover 2, you better hope that you can stop the run, but also if you're on the offense, you better have answers to punish cover 2. And I think, again, the Vikings in the last couple of years are a great example of it. So I kind of think on that a lot too, is that you need other things. So it's just so team dependent, situation dependent as well. And that's again, it turns into a non-ending argument because we're discussion.
We'll do this on the phone later. Charlie can ask his Abdul Carter question.
No, it was just part of it, which is just that like I know you have Travis Hunter number 1 on your big board, but just positional value. Would you think the Browns should consider Carter too?
No, I've thought long on this too. I do think they're fine going Hunter because I just think he's such a special talent, and it's just kind of like I have more blemishes with Abdul Carter. So then we're getting to, as much as I love, saying I'd much rather have a pass rusher, yada yada. Also, I have Hunter a tier above. Like I think he's the only guy in this class that I would consider what I call a purple chip, which is no matter the draft class, he's going top 5. No matter who else is in this draft class, Abdul Carter to me is not that. So done. All right, go BPA, done right there. That and I do think the other thing with him as a receiver is he has a ways to go as a route runner. But most people that's a bigger blemish. But the thing is it's understandable. He's playing 100 snaps a week. He didn't practice on offense, so I'm willing to wave that away as well.
Do you guys think it's going to be hard to develop and coach Travis Hunter if he's actually trying to play on both sides? Is there any risk in that?
I mean, of course. I think it's going to be harder to do it than anyone else.
Because it's like this is so unique. He's so freakishly athletic.
Right.
It's hard to imagine also the fact that he's saying he'd rather not play football than not play. I know he's just saying this because they're gonna pat him on the shoulder and be like, okay, sounds good. You're playing DB or you're playing receiver. Yeah. But is there any concern about just the development of how unique this is going to be, and the coaching staff has to be like very specific in how you develop this guy who's this talented who wants to do so much?
There absolutely should be concern.
That's why
it's harder.
The full-time thing I can't get my mind around because full-time game plan, learning a game plan just in one side of the ball is already hard enough. And that's why I just can't get my mind around. It's like, that is so much mental capacity. And I think he's a football genius. I really do. Watching him play DB is a lot of fun. Like, it really is, because it just is feel and everything. But that's why I'm just like, that's so much to ask of one guy, especially young.
Yeah, I mean, and you see him break coverage rules, to your football genius part, break coverage rules and make the play because he sees and feels this game better than you would expect people, and his brain operates faster and his body operates faster as a result. I get that point. However, this game is so much about like finding the little edges which come from experience, which come from study and preparation. And college, the one thing about college, and the college game has developed some, but from college, it's like guys run the same.
Yeah,
like
also the gap between him and college players.
I mean, not even. No, I'm not talking about the athleticism. I'm talking about the mental side of the game. It's like the teams they run the same plays all year long, pretty much. Like
double slants.
The NFL, as an NFL cornerback, I've had a number of games where they have concepts that they like, but they'll find different formations and situations or ways to get to it. But I've had plenty of games where we watched 3 weeks of tape getting ready, or 4 weeks of tape getting ready for a team. Then we get out there and we ain't seen none of this because they have redesigned their offense based on what they think we're gonna do. And so like the idea, the reason why that matters is because once you get in a game like that, having had reps, it's like, oh, this is what they're doing. Oh, I see this now. And it's not like in college where you're like, oh, they're gonna run a curl flat. I remember playing against Phillip Rivers, and I made a big pass breakup on a 4th down where you did a 0 blitz, and everyone was like, oh, that's such great coverage. I knew the play. Y'all run the same play every 3rd down. You run this little bunch. It's a bunch corner or a bunch dig. It's like, oh, y'all got a bunch, a 3rd down. We're blitzing. You're not going to run the dig. You're going to run a corner. Give me that. That is not what happens in the NFL. They're running something different.
And that's so funny you say. And also, like, you got the guy on the sideline holding up the number with the personnel. And right, Dominique? It's like, oh, they're in 12. Yeah. Okay, that means they're doing this, this, and this. Okay, just off of game planning. Like, that's what you have to know. Yes, they can break it and everything. It's just, I don't know, just the little details. While on offense, I could go blah, 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 X post. All right, Travis, you're the X. You're running a post. Done. I can tag you on defense. Right. There's just so much that the variables that go into it. So I'm glad you brought up all that game plan stuff, because it's just like I mean, shoot, even going against like a Shanahan offense, like you were just saying, even just defending the runs. Like, all of a sudden you got to know, okay, this guy's coming at you. Oh, you got Kittle in motion. You got to take him on. All right, we're in cloud over there, so you got to run fit against this. But actually, they do a play action off that, and they boot up. Like, just these little one after another. And as you know, Dominique, you just said all the little edges. If you show one little thing on tape, one little weakness, good offenses are just going to go pop, 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 and just go after it. If you just have one little thing that they can think they can pick after.
Yeah, hopefully he's able to do it, but it does seem like a hell of a challenge. All right, last question. We'll get you out of here with this one. How high do you think Jalen Milroe's ceiling is? And because of that ceiling, how high do you think he'll go?
Okay. My comparison for him has kind of been a Zoomer Cordell Stewart. That's kind of how I've looked at him. I would prefer him on day 3 or day 2, like round 3 as well. But I do think that he's in Green Bay for a reason. Like, that's kind of just what I keep coming back to. And I was at the combine, and I don't really like to talk too much to teams and everything, because a lot of it's propaganda and a lot of it's like how smart I am and all that. So I kind of just take a lot of stuff with a grain of salt, even among guys I worked with or know. And 3 guys went out of their way, basically stopped me mid-sentence and said, you know who rocked in interviews? Jalen Milroe. Oh my God, I loved his interview process. Oh, he's phenomenal. And I was just like, okay. And then I see him getting invited to Green Bay. And I was just like, okay. So what are we talking about? Like, how much do you guys like him? So I think the Steelers are live with him. I really do think that that's a team that I could see them, if they sign Aaron Rodgers or trade for Kirk Cousins, which I do think are possibilities. The Kirk Cousins one is interesting, that he's perfect to sit behind a guy, be a Zoomer slash as he develops. But he needs time. Like, he's exciting. He's explosive. His arms are incredible. His wheels are excellent, rare. He needs so much time to develop as a pocket passer. I've seen Anthony Richardson comparison. Anthony had much better pocket feel and much better feel for the game than Jalen Milroe does right at this point in time. So he needs time. That's why I'm like, pump the brakes. Day two. But it just takes one. I hate saying that refrain, but it really, really matters because one team is going to fall in love with those tools.
Charlie loves Anthony Richardson.
I did. Before the draft, I was like, no, I mean, I still want him to succeed. So my take will be right. But I know. I mean, I don't. I can't say that I totally believe in him.
And people I know that are just like kind of going like, yeah. I'm like, really? Like,
but that arm, and that speed,
look how big he is. He's just like Culpepper, isn't he?
Fast.
All right, Nate. Thank you so much, man. We'll let you go. I appreciate it. And I'm not joking. I'm calling you next week just so we can talk about football because it was fun.
I love that. No, thanks for having me. It's so much fun.
All right, see you, buddy. All right, thank you, Charlie. Thanks to Vinny Goodwill and Nate Tice. Thanks to all the great producers. Paul, I love you. We out.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.